and welcome to the Philistines podcast, a podcast where we are challenged with articulating a love for art and storytelling. Today, I am joined by my swimming friend, Lucy.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I'm glad everybody could join us to discuss this film by Gints Zilbalodis, Flow, the film about the black cat and capybara. And to my surprise, no dialogue. But I'm happy to report back that this is an interesting little film. Is this film about individuals connecting, overcoming a problem? Is this film about transcendence into another realm? Is this film about global warming, the effects of humanity on our Earth? What could all of this mean? What does this film mean? I want to say there's a lot going on in this film, but there isn't. There's a lot I like about this film. I like this perspective of the cat in his humble abode. Did he have an owner? Have people been gone for a long time because the remnants of people is present? We see a human figure in a statue at one point, right? So there's obviously humans about at one time or another. This film obviously reminded me of Life of Pi, where you start to see the personality and just the cadence and mannerisms of the creatures on this boat, and you're like, oh, he's the cook, he's the captain, he's the jest. There's almost like a storybook kind of thing going on in that. But I will say, my big takeaway from the film, not very profound, but dogs suck. But before I say too much, I am very interested in what you have to say. What did you think of Flow?
This film made me feel all kinds of things that I'm never ready for a film to make me feel. I felt so worried and apprehensive and uneasy, anxious. The list was very endless. I didn't get 1 ounce of relief watching this film. And of course, many, many tears. I agree with you. What an interesting point of view. Because how many films do we have out there where we experience this story through an animal? And let's exclude dog movies here for a minute, which drastically narrows that down. And I'm thinking films like Ratatouille or Charlotte's Web. But then we bring this very interesting thing where the animals don't talk. And that's crazy, and it's awesome, and this film does it so well. Talk about the power of the medium, right? I really enjoyed the lack of dialogue. Not only did it intensify the naturalness that we're supposed to experience with these animals, but intensified my feelings watching this movie, because how much would have taken me out of the moment if the capybara was like, oh, hey, cat, let me help you come into this boat. You know, I love how we're all this cat when facing adversity. We're all scared and distrusting, but very quickly become resilient and adaptable. Who knew a little black cat could act as the audience surrogate without even talking? We also have this very lone character starting in the film, and it slowly morphs into an ensemble to really emphasize the importance of relationships and diversity. Nothing forced, very nice. Nothing like facing the world ending with your friends by your side kind of moment. The score was good. I thought the animation was pretty cool. I liked how flowy it looked, very fluid. Along with the colors, it was great. The sound design was great. And although, like you said, nothing much happens, it is intentionally slow paced, with the movie being only, an hour, 20 minutes. It worked perfectly. And I'm with you. This movie brought up several questions for me. Where are the humans? What happened to humanity? Why is there a natural disaster occurring, and is it continuing? Is there a concrete message, or is this metaphorical? What a terrible movie. And terrible in the sense of causing me terror.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to identify, I think, the exact focus in what the supposed intended kind of message might be, outside of, the cat developing some sense of trust and the ability to work with others, which is obviously a projection and personification of just us coming together. It's a timeless situation, right? Just overcoming a huge obstacle. It does have some weird pit stops and drags on, I think. If anything is wrong with this movie, I think it does drag on probably 15 minutes too long. Just because there isn't a through line. There's not a focus outside of what's happening on the boat, right? There's no objective in any kind of global way.
Yeah, and I guess immediately I wanted to almost identify this as a slice of life kind of film just because of how it was making me feel that way, but this isn't a slice of life moment.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of slice of life films, actually, or at least adjacent slice of life movies. And the only part that seemed to really just was baity, predatory, didn't really matter, was when they were going through that city. There seemed to be some kind of build-up happening there, and it felt like Gint's way of just trying to get a little bit more mileage and momentum out of this otherwise pretty, very minimalistic kind of visual storytelling, gimmick that he's got going on. I'm not a big fan of the art style. The animation's very slick, especially with the cat. When he's underwater and stuff, it's very cool. I don't love how he looks, how anyone looks, how anything looks, but how they move is very cool.
Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of a Studio Ghibli film, maybe because we have this strange protagonist. Like every Studio Ghibli film is always a very strange protagonist. But they put us in this cat's shoes in a really interesting way because it immediately puts us up against dogs. Dogs, especially from a cat's perspective, dogs suck. They're very scary. I don't blame them. They are scary. But we're faced with these dogs, then this stampede of deer, which, if you've seen Lion King, that's scary.
Heck yeah.
A cat and a stampede happening, bad things happen, right?
That's where I knew this was not my kind of movie.
Well, it sounds like it was right up your alley if you had tears.
I should not be apprehensive the entire movie. And we'll get to our scores when we get to our scores. But maybe this is a one and done movie for me because I never want to feel this way again.
And yes, of course. And this movie doesn't offer anything to chew on at the end of things, I don't think. But then they immediately put us in danger. And then we come to face with the Labrador. And we don't trust him because he's a dog, right? And then things get worse and he meets the capybara. And then I think it does a really interesting way to put us in a place of not trusting those around us. And I think it's kind of at the forefront of the storytelling because it's kind of a constant tug and pull between trust and not trust. As this cat meets different animals, can't trust the birds until you can, can't trust the dogs until you can, then you really can't trust the dogs actually because, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of resolution with that point when that's the most important point in the film. Because the film even lands on, damn, you really can't trust those dogs, can you? Because they leave. They go chase a rabbit because they're, stupid. And the capybara, he looks like he's going to die and stuff or whatever. And I guess you could say the film maybe is about, especially with the presence of the Labrador sticking around, the ones who you do trust, the ones who you build a trusting relationship with are the ones that you should keep in your life. I will say I did think the film was going to be more about transcending into some kind of, heaven-like thing, just moving on. And we get a little bit of that, and I think that's a very strange pit stop that is kind of pointless, and it almost feels like the bird is a sacrificial kind of thing to some kind of ends.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. This film is simple in the way that you find uncanny friends during some of the hard times in life. And the true friends are there to stay. Those dogs that ran after the rabbit were not the true friends. They didn't journey through this life with you. through the hardships with you. So their trust was as fleeting. And the only time I felt like this was any kind of transcendency into another realm or spiritual was when the bird died. I agree that was a weird pit stop, and the animation behind that felt weird as well. We had the cat floating up with him, and I guess there were bubbles causing both of them to float up, and I guess in my mind that made me think that they were really underwater and they were both dying. So I was very confused to not only what was happening, but where I was at this moment, on land, in water, whatever. But then it was very clear that the bird died, the cat survived. Not that he was dying. I don't know. It, like I said, it was a weird moment. And then after that, we don't get anything else that made me feel like that was a movie about dying, or so I kind of took that as we just lose friends along the way, and how it can make us feel like we're dying in that moment.
Along the way of what?
Life.
See, I think that's...
Or hardships.
Does the journey represent a life? Or is it more of a time and place, what's happening, not necessarily in this world right now, but just a representation of a catastrophe and bringing people together?
Yeah, I think it's more the second one, but that's also part of your life. And sometimes these moments can stay with you as if they're consuming your whole life. So it's a bit hard for me to separate the two, I guess. But I could see it being a little bit more literal, losing friends and meeting friends in a natural disaster kind of setting.
So why the presence of humans, at least in an archaeological sense?
That's a great question. That was my biggest question. What is humanity's role in this? Like you said, we do have a human statue. We do have this sort of cat sanctuary in the beginning of the film. We see cat drawings. As far as we know, these cats and animals can't draw. And when we pass by the human statue, we don't tend to have any kind of recognition from the cat that he knows what that is. Almost like he just glosses over it.
Yeah, and same for the buildings. It's just habitat. It's just mountain to them. It's just a jungle.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes me think it's been a long time.
So the cat had no owner. So you're suggesting?
Yes.
That's kind of sad.
Yes. It's very sad. And I guess I also got this sort of Noah's Ark vibe to it. Not that I'm crazy familiar with the story, but it's a story about hope and salvation. As far as this being a sort of metaphor or future for us, that this was caused by climate change, I sort of get why that could be a conclusion because of that presence of humanity and sort of where we land. Seeing the whale catfish out of the water is a bit disturbing. As disturbing as seeing drowning polar bears, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. But they pull that number in a really weird way because I guess the earth just opens up and all the water drains and the whale thing is beached.
But I also took that as some sort of symbolism that I scratch your back, you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of moment, because this whale catfish thing saved the cat at one point in the film. He was drowning and he brought him back up, and now it was sort of your turn.
And I suppose they do with the after credits scene. The whale, I guess, survives. It's a little weird because now all of a sudden there's water again, like everywhere, because the whole screen is water. And so it's just a little, what is the point of this? But I guess if there is that element of I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I don't know how you're scratching a whale's back by trying to get him back to the water. They must have been real close because that's pretty crazy. it's a weird way to end it as well, if they're just going to end it with the whale being beached and they're looking at him and they're like, what do we do with you? It's a weird way to end this film. It ends in such a way that it comes with some oomph, like it's got something to say. But that's kind of one reason I like this film, is there seems to be so vague, so minimalistic, that you can read into it in a variety of ways. But I guess at the same time, on the other hand, it really does just end. And so maybe that's to help play up the vagueness. It kind of reminds me of the Coen Brothers film A Serious Man, and just the way it ends, and it just suggests that it's trying to say something with this almost kind of teasing of things just not being wrapped up. But there's nothing to wrap up either at the same time. You see what I'm saying? It's just a little vague to the point that you're trying to trick me into thinking that you're trying to say something. Just like A Serious Man. That's the point of A Serious Man, I know. But Flow, unlike A Serious Man, is so simple, with the exception of the bird transcending into Buddhism or something. It just kind of leaves me with a okay kind of attitude, you know? But I liked a lot of the film, don't get me wrong. I'm not hung up on the end, I'm really not. And just to be clear, I don't want any more out of the film because of just how focused it is and not saying anything at all.
Yeah, it seems like it's a very simple story about friendship, about survival, but it does leave you with these questions at the end, whether that's intentional or not.
Oh, it's super intentional, and it is against just trying to spark the conversation, where the conversation is more interesting than the movie, or more profound, maybe I should say. All right, man. Well, thank you for watching this film with me and talking about it here today.
You're welcome.
Do you have a budget guess?
I have no idea what the budget is. I put down 25, but I also don't know, with this being from Latvia. I have no idea.
Yeah, especially today when you have an animated movie like Mufasa that costs 200 million, or Moana. It's just like, that's
crazy.
That's crazy. How do you categorize that in your mind, file that away? Yeah, I think most of the world, when they make movies or animated movies, they don't just give gobs and gobs of money. Apparently it cost $3.6 million.
Oh, wow.
So, relatively cheap, I will say. And it went on to make its money back, very much so, with $20 million.
Nice.
So that's awesome. And over on Letterboxd, with 389,000 people, they weighed in at a 4.1.
Wow. That's pretty high.
That's pretty crazy. Animated films, of course, get a huge rating bump, right? No matter how bad the story is, like Inside Out 2, it seems to be rated mostly on just the polish of the animation, the slick, the sexiness of it, right?
Yeah, I'm giving this movie a 3, and I don't know how confident I am in that 3. I liked what I watched.
Yeah, it didn't have a lot of flaws, if you could say that, right? To like want to knock it down a bunch of points. It's like, I had a good time.
Yeah, I can't exactly point out what I didn't like about it.
Yeah, that's kind of the same boat I'm in. It doesn't offer anything for me. It doesn't leave anything for me to chew on later that week, you know? But I had a really good time watching the film.
Yeah, I didn't have a great time watching the film, besides just being distressed for
That's
this
awesome.
cat.
That's so awesome that you can get that kind of feeling out of a movie that has no dialogue.
And
It is about animals, so it's a little predatory for you, I guess, because, you know, you're a sucker for cats especially. But that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, this film definitely stressed me out a little too much.
Yeah, I think this film is a solid 2.5. I walk around pretending I like animation, but clearly I don't like it as much as some folks, maybe. But thank you again for talking about this film with me, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Film Steins. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Little short one. Remember, we post every Wednesday and Friday with brand new episodes of the Film Steins on all of our free feeds, and every other Monday on patreon.com for Patreon exclusive episodes. Our next free episode will be on the Memoir of a Snail film, claymation. Very much looking forward to that. I think it has dialogue.
Oh, okay.
I think it's about a snail person. I'm not sure. I've only ever seen the poster thumbnail. It looks like it should be somewhat sad. Like the art style looks kind of like prototype Tim Burton-esque, I guess, you know? But please look forward to that. Remember to leave nice comments, thoughts, and ideas on our Patreon as well. Come subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube, please. Come request a film. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate all the support. But until next time, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Filmistines. Thanks for tuning in and joining us on our cinematic journey. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and gained some new insights and perspectives on the world of movies. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, especially Patreon at patreon.com/filmistines. And follow us on social media for more film-related content. We love hearing from our listeners, so if you have any feedback, suggestions, movie recommendations, or book recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us. Until next time, keep watching and keep loving the magic of movies. This is the Filmistines signing off.